going to move on. Parul Barry, Empowering Women in Radiation Oncology.
All right. So I just wanted to start off with this picture, just kind of showing the women in my department, and a little Twitter image of what we post, even though I actually don't even know how to use Twitter. But this is kind of reflecting one of the big accomplishments of the Society of Women in Radiation Oncology this year was a Women's Activity Day. So just kind of an overview of the talk. There is a lot that has been going on in terms of research and data and all that, and we'll kind of get into that. In terms of the promise, the problem, the solutions of improving the state of women in radiation oncology. So basically, ever since I've been enrolled in medical school, I've heard that there's more and more women going in medical school, and in 2017, it looks like the number of women that were enrolled actually exceeded that of men in medical school. But as we all know, and as we hear in general, there are not a lot of women in STEM fields holding STEM jobs, and that includes medicine as well. You see amongst faculty in medicine, only 35% are women, and in radiation oncology, only 27% are women. And amongst the residents, that is generally increasing because there's more women in medical school, but only about 1 in 3 medical students, 1 in 4 residents in radiation oncology are women. And so this has also been evaluated overall in academic oncology. A lot of med looked at this, and she found that overall, less than half of oncologists, radiation or medical oncologists, are women, either faculty or trainees. And in medical oncology, it's increased, the number of women, faculty or trainees has increased about 1% a year, whereas in radiation oncology, we're slowly creeping up at about 0.3% a year. Great. And we see that here, when she kind of populates this on this graph, that actually medical oncology has done a pretty good job. They're nearly at least in terms of faculty, nearly at 50%, whereas in radiation oncology, we still hover at about 25 to 30%. And actually, in more recent years, the number of women radiation oncology trainees is starting to decline. So we're a little bit closer to that 25% level. So what's the problem? What's going on? As my friend said, what's the problem? So the problem is that there's a lot of issues within the field. A lot of women don't really want to go into our field, and it's for several reasons. They feel like there's an unconscious bias against them, potentially over discrimination and harassment. It's difficult to start a family, and they also have lack of exposure to the field. Additionally, in my own research, we found that a lot of women feel like there may be preferential treatment given towards men that aren't given towards women, and they lose out on opportunities. And in fact, in my own data set, when we looked at training in radiation oncology, we had some open response questions regarding preferential treatment and bias. And there was a lot of feedback that we received that we were able to code out within the paper, suggesting that these may be some reasons for why women do not want to enter the field. Similarly, this was also reflected when people were asked why they feel, we are below average at 25%. Thoughts expressing bias, harassment, etc. were noted. Dr. Holliday also, she's back here, took a look at her pregnancy, or her study on pregnancy and parenthood, found that a lot of women radiation oncology residents, even though they had similar career aspirations and productivity, ended up having an unfair burden of labor in terms of child care as well. So in terms of the solution, a lot of us women see that there are not that the numbers are declining and there are not many of us around. Typically only about 1 in 4 rad-oncs are women. So, there's been several societies that have tried to kind of, fix this, assess this, and whatnot. Presentations at, annual meetings at ASTRO and ACRO. But really, because of all of this, the Society of Women in Radiation Oncology was developed to kind of address this problem, kind of as an overlying organization. And it started with these women, and with the help of myself and Dr. Jagsy, and actually a few others that weren't even in this picture, to kind of address the problem of, lack of women, lack of mentorship, and lack of promotion in radiation oncology. And so that's reflected in our mission statement as well, is to create essentially a safe space and improve and empower the number of women in radiation oncology, promote them and sponsor them into leadership positions and, gain more residents and encourage more people to come into the field. And so we've done it through several different ways, through mentorship, which has been highly successful, pairing, faculty and resident mentors. And often they'll meet at, annual meetings. There's a lot of radiation oncology meetings throughout the year. Through publications, we have published a couple of different papers on the Me Too movement and also on the Women Who Cure movement. And there's a couple more papers in the pipeline as well. And through webinars and interviews. We have Dr. Gillespie here. I know that Dr. Hens has spoken at the Chicago Radiologic Society on the Women Who Cure movement. Career advice for residents, and then speaking with other department chairs on how they can also support their trainees and fellow women faculty in the field. And then finally, and my favorite was through social media. So even though I don't know how to use Twitter, the Society for Women in Radiation Oncology did a massive campaign celebrating women in the field, trainees and women faculty through the Women Who Cure movement. And that was done on November 7th, which is Marie Curie's birthday this year. And it was, all throughout the country. You can see Chicago and Illinois in general had a huge showing. So the darker blue areas show the impact of the number of tweets and impressions and, all of those things. So it was a pretty popular campaign throughout the country and actually had an impact throughout the world. So I think there was nearly 3,000 tweets and over 1 million impressions, which Shalene knows. And I had to look up the word impression last night, but that means it was very popular. And then you can see this map here that shows just how much of an impact it had as well. So essentially, women in radiation oncology has a direct impact on education and on patient care. And we need to improve the number of women that become residents and eventually faculty members and practicing physicians within the community. And I wanted to put this picture on here to show that it really takes, everyone's effort to improve this. Not only just organizations, but really everyone's effort to sponsor, promote, and encourage women to apply and become radiation oncology residents, faculty, and private practitioners. So I wanted to thank all of these people. Any questions?